John Gotti. The name sent shivers down spines. From the mean streets of New York City, he rose to become the boss of the Gambino crime family. Gotti, with his tailored suits and charisma, was a media darling, but behind the charm was a ruthless mobster. He ruled with an iron fist, demanding loyalty and instilling fear. His word was law, his actions often brutal. Gotti's influence stretched far and wide. Businesses paid him for protection, rivals trembled at his name. He was a man who seemed untouchable. Law enforcement knew he was behind countless crimes, yet he always managed to escape justice. This only added to his mystique and fueled the public's fascination with him. He was a throwback to a bygone era of gangsters. He lived large and flaunted his wealth. Gotti's story is a captivating mix of violence, ambition, and the intoxicating allure of power. It's a tale that continues to fascinate and horrify. John Gotti's journey into the criminal underworld began early. Growing up in poverty in East New York, he turned to petty crime as a teenager. Gotti quickly climbed the ranks of the Gambino family, known for his ruthlessness and ambition. He ran street crews, engaging in robberies, hijackings, and loan sharking. His loyalty to underboss Agnello Della Croce earned him respect. Gotti proved himself a capable and fearless earner. He was involved in the infamous Lufthansa heist of 1978, a daring airport robbery that netted millions. This brazen act cemented his reputation as a rising star in the Gambino family. But it was Gotti's ambition that truly set him apart. He craved power, and he wasn't afraid to challenge the established order. This ambition, however, would eventually put him at odds with the family's leadership. It set the stage for a power struggle that would have violent consequences. In 1985, John Gotti made a bold and ruthless move. Paul Castellano, then head of the Gambino family, was gunned down outside Sparks Steakhouse in Manhattan. The assassination sent shockwaves through the underworld. Gotti, who orchestrated the hit, quickly seized control of the family. The assassination of Castellano was a major turning point. It showcased Gotti's audacity and his willingness to break the unwritten rules of the Mafia. Castellano's focus on white-collar crime had angered many in the family, who preferred the traditional rackets. Gotti, by contrast, promised a return to the old ways. With Castellano out of the picture, Gotti wasted no time consolidating his power. He appointed his loyalists to key positions and ruthlessly dealt with anyone who dared to oppose him. Gotti had achieved his goal. He was the boss, feared and respected. John Gotti was a study in contradictions. He was a ruthless killer, responsible for ordering numerous murders. Yet he was also known for his charisma and charm, which he used to cultivate a public image that belied his true nature. This dichotomy was central to his success. Gotti understood the power of image. He cultivated an image of a man of the people, often stopping to talk to reporters and pose for photographs. He frequented trendy nightclubs and dressed impeccably, earning him the nickname the Dapper Don. This carefully crafted persona made him a media sensation, further increasing his power and influence. But behind the charm was a cold-blooded killer. Gotti was quick to eliminate rivals and those he perceived as threats. His reign was marked by violence and intimidation, ensuring loyalty and obedience. Gotti's brutality sent a clear message: cross him and face the consequences. Despite mounting evidence against him, John Gotti seemed untouchable. He beat multiple prosecutions, earning him the moniker the Teflon Don. Juries were swayed by his charisma, and witnesses often changed their stories or refused to testify out of fear. Gotti's ability to evade justice seemed to defy logic. Some whispered of jury tampering and witness intimidation, others pointed to his expensive lawyers and their ability to exploit legal loopholes. Whatever the reason, Gotti's acquittals only served to solidify his image as a man above the law. This aura of invincibility instilled fear in his enemies and emboldened his supporters. It seemed nothing could touch him. His reign of terror continued unabated, and his grip on the Gambino family remained firm. The law finally caught up with John Gotti in 1992. Using the Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, or RICO, prosecutors built a case that proved insurmountable. They flipped Salvatore "Sammy the Bull" Gravano, Gotti's underboss and close confidant, to testify against him. Gravano's testimony was devastating. He detailed Gotti's involvement in murders, racketeering, and obstruction of justice. The Teflon Don had finally met his match. The evidence was overwhelming, and the jury returned a guilty verdict on all charges. Gotti's reign of terror was over. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The man who once seemed invincible was now just another inmate. Even in prison, John Gotti's influence remained strong. He continued to run the Gambino family from his cell, relying on loyal associates to carry out his orders. Gotti's reach extended beyond prison walls, demonstrating the enduring power of fear and loyalty within the Mafia. Life in prison was a far cry from Gotti's days as a flamboyant crime boss. His movements were restricted, his communications monitored. Yet, he adapted to his new reality, using smuggled notes and coded messages to maintain control over his criminal empire. Despite the restrictions, Gotti's influence within the Gambino family remained significant. He appointed new leaders, settled disputes, and orchestrated criminal activities from his prison cell. The legend of John Gotti endured, even as he spent his days behind bars. John Gotti left behind a complex legacy. He was a ruthless criminal who brought violence and fear to the streets of New York City. Yet, he was also a charismatic figure who captivated the public imagination and became an icon of the American Mafia. Gotti's reign marked a turning point in the public perception of organized crime. He embraced the media spotlight, cultivating an image that was both alluring and terrifying. His story became a cautionary tale of ambition, greed, and the seductive nature of power. In the end, Gotti's legacy is a reminder that crime doesn't pay. His pursuit of power and wealth ultimately led to his downfall. He died in prison, stripped of his freedom and separated from the empire he built on a foundation of violence and intimidation. John Gotti's rise to power presented a significant challenge for law enforcement agencies. His ability to evade conviction for years frustrated investigators and prosecutors who were determined to bring him to justice. The FBI dedicated significant resources to dismantling Gotti's criminal enterprise. Gotti's reign marked a period of intense scrutiny for the Mafia. Law enforcement agencies used every tool at their disposal, including surveillance, informants, and wiretaps, to gather evidence against him. The pursuit of John Gotti became a top priority. The eventual conviction of John Gotti was a major victory for law enforcement. It demonstrated the effectiveness of the RICO Act in combating organized crime and sent a clear message that even the most powerful mobsters were not above the law. John Gotti's charisma and notoriety made him a media sensation. He was featured prominently in newspapers and magazines, and his story was the subject of numerous books and television shows. Gotti's life and crimes became a source of endless fascination for the public. Gotti's public persona was a complex mix of charm and menace. He was often portrayed as a Robin Hood figure, a man of the people who stood up to the establishment. This image, carefully cultivated by Gotti himself, resonated with some segments of the population. The fascination with John Gotti continued long after his imprisonment. His life and crimes inspired countless works of fiction and non-fiction, cementing his place in American popular culture. He became a symbol of a bygone era, a reminder of the enduring allure of organized crime. John Gotti's death in prison in 2002 marked the end of an era for the American Mafia. His demise, along with the successful prosecution of other high-profile mobsters, significantly weakened the once powerful organization. The Mafia faced numerous challenges in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Increased law enforcement pressure, changing social norms, and the rise of new criminal enterprises all contributed to its decline. The days of flamboyant mob bosses like John Gotti seemed over. While the Mafia's influence has waned, organized crime continues to evolve. New groups have emerged, often operating with less visibility and engaging in different types of criminal activities. The fight against organized crime remains an ongoing challenge for law enforcement agencies worldwide.